Hello, hello. Welcome to NC Web Dev's regular Thursday webinar sessions on LinkedIn. Today we are live also on YouTube and Facebook. We're going simultaneously out to these two platforms. Again, testing it out. So in case anybody can't catch this one, you can catch us on Facebook NC Web Dev business page and LinkedIn on Globner Productions. LinkedIn, YouTube. Looking at LinkedIn now, so that's why I was thinking about it. But anyway, we have about another few seconds before we start, before the notifications go out and everybody can join us. And I think we're about ready to start. 3, 2, 1, and go. So, web design strategies. Welcome. It's Thursday the 29th, 11 o'clock, 11:01 probably by now. The way I look at it, I don't see a clock ahead of me right now, so just estimating. Welcome, and let's get on with it. Let's see. Like, if you need to build a website, what do you have to do? Do you know? Yeah, of course, you go to some place and you just putting a domain name, and yeah, GoDaddy will fix everything up for you. That's one way to look at it. Anyway, what you need to start with, to start the process. How do you start it? You start by setting objectives. That means you first need to describe your objectives exactly, step by step, in detail. That means, what does it have to do? What do you expect from it? What are your expectations of visits, of content, of product or service you're offering to people, and who's your target audience? Those are the things that you need to set straight right from the start. Of course, then it's part of colors, branding, and stuff. But generally, you need to have a good set of objectives to get you going. So that's your step number one. Step number two is, now that you know what you want, you got to see where you want to go about implementing it. So this is where you have to pick the solution that best aligns with your objectives. There's always several options, so it's good to know all of them. And then the most important step 3, is the actual execution of your objectives and plan. Plan everything out, you make a selection, now let's build it. And that's where everything happens. And if you get this part right, you're more than likely going to be successful. Again, it's about time and sticking with it. So what's out there? Well, I only named a few. Of course, there's multiple others we can name, like Squarespace is not mentioned and whatever else. But yeah, for a good startup system, they're cheap, they're good. They're safe. We're going to talk about security later on, but yeah, they're safe. It's Wix. Wix is a very good platform. I mean, they're not so big because just by accident. They're good. But their drawback is that they don't grow with you. So it's a good startup system. If you're just trying to get out there, get a domain name, you don't know what exactly, you don't have everything defined yet, you just want to be out there, yeah, get Wix. You pay a few dollars a month, you get your basic website, you get the domain name out there. The only thing that Wix will do very good for is somebody who's not looking to grow big yet, but you just want to get a domain name and have a place where the search engines can find your domain name, and you're building domain age. That's basically what it is. It's good for, now they're trying to do, like all these are trying to do one solution for all. So that means you could build your e-shop or e-commerce store on Wix as well, but they're not focused on that. They're focused on the basic presentations. So that's Wix. Shopify is very similar to Wix, but Shopify, they're e-commerce. So if you want to run a store, great. Their prices run from a couple of dollars a month up to like the enterprise edition. I think latest price I've seen was like $1,000 a month, or maybe there's one even for $2,000 a month. It's like an enterprise solution where they will do all the exports of products, automations, and stuff like that. But yeah, you're gonna pay for that. But again, to get on the board, 5 products, 10 products, or one service, 2 services, whatever. Yeah, e-commerce, they process your payments. You don't got to worry about setting up anything in a too complex way. They're there. Both of these are basically something like WordPress, and I studied a lot. They're not going to admit it, but I think they are built. They're just a customized WordPress, but they're customized to the most generic audience, but to their end target audience, and it's a closed system. You can't change anything in it. What they give you is what you got to live with, and you got to. That's your limitations. Is what Wix and Shopify will give for you. Now, GoDaddy hosting. GoDaddy. Who didn't hear about GoDaddy? Everybody. And GoDaddy is a little different than Wix and Shopify. They will actually host the WordPress core for you. They'll manage it. So that means you don't have to deal with the server side of things. And they will offer you all the ins and outs of WordPress just like anybody else. The only thing is they're not going to build it for you. So yeah, you can like, for example, if you work with us, we could work on your WordPress website on GoDaddy hosting. That's not a problem. But if you're going to go into it and do it yourself later on, now you're going to see there is a couple of things you got to keep in mind, and GoDaddy is not going to help you with that. So it's basically, it's a good site to start, or it's a good hosting to start with, but it's not, they're not going to do everything for you. That's just what it is. You're going to still be out there, just like when using Wix or Shopify. They all offer templates, but you got to figure it out. All the SEO ins and outs. Now, number 4 is, of course, the standalone WordPress. The advantage there is that it's your own site. You're 100% ownership of it, because WordPress core is free. You buy your own licenses, whichever ones you want. You have basically unlimited plugins in WordPress overall. And once you have this, it's similar to GoDaddy, where because if GoDaddy gives you the WordPress templates or the website hosting, you could take that WordPress and migrate it to any other WordPress. So the number 3 and number 4 here are closely similar, except when you start with WordPress and you set it up right, you're going to be better off doing it on your own or doing it with somebody who knows what they're doing to run that WordPress for you, because they'll set up a core of products or plugins that you need on there. And once those products are there, what's going to happen is you don't have to uninstall and reinstall, because think of plugins sort of like Android or iOS store applications. You know, the more of them you install, if you don't uninstall them, they become a security issue. If you uninstall them, they always leave something behind. So it's kind of like the more you're going to change around WordPress and play around with it, the worse it's going to get, the system, the slower, the more corrupt, there's going to be issues, etc. So, you know, WordPress is good, start it right, and take it anywhere you want. At that point, you're basically 100% owner of your business, of your site. Here we go. We're talking about security and updates. Some interesting statistics. Security. Did you know that 43% of hacker attacks are against small business? Because you may always think, oh yeah, you know, this hacker stuff, yeah, they go after the big guys because that's where the money is. Well, big guys, yeah, sure. Everybody heard about the pipeline. And everybody heard about when they breach T-Mobile, when they breach Bank of America was the most famous one lately also. There's a lot of them. And yeah, sure, they'll go after them. But what are the hackers after? Well, they're after 2 things. A is information, logins, and whatever personal information they can get from anybody. And they're after resources, so computing resources. So by taking over your website, they can use it in a pool to use to like decrypt or break into other more complex systems. So, you know, no matter where you are, your website still is a computer, and it still has a processor, has memory, and it can be used in more complex attacks against bigger businesses. So that's why a small business website is as good as a big business website for that kind of purpose. And the next one is the SQL injection attack against search boxes, for example. This is another one security issue that people don't think about, is where they could put a certain query into it and that records into your database, and that gives them the password. Now, if you don't have any protection against it, the protections are on the other side of this slide. Basically, they can get into your, if they are able to inject a certain query in there into your database, then they can manipulate your database and download all the content. So for example, if you have an e-store and you have 10,000, oh, 10,000, if you have 1,000 customers from previous years of doing business, what happens is they get access to all that data just because they put something in your search box on your website. Pretty simple. And if you don't have any security, they're in. You just gave them, let's say, 10,000 emails for free, and they're going to be spamming all of them. So, that's the stuff that happens. Best preventions is updates. That means if you install it on GoDaddy, if you install it anywhere else, your WordPress, you set it up, make sure it's being updated regularly. Generally, they can be updated without your knowledge. The drawback there is if you do automatic updates, any update that starts working with, that gets installed and starts working in a new environment can interact with other updates and plugins, and it can cause your site to crash. It's not a big deal for crashing. The big deal is that it's offline. And once your system is offline, your customers can't find you. That's the problem. So to avoid that, you want to be monitoring the updates and make sure that site is running after each update. Again, it could be automated. That's something we offer to our customers as well. It's 24/7 monitoring of your uptime of your website. So, that's one thing to look out for, updates. And then, again, the updates are updated, as I mentioned, the updates are updated separately from WordPress core. And you always want to have backup. So in case an update goes through badly, you have something where you just go say, okay, I'm just going to lose the last hour of data. I'm not going to lose like 5 days of data, just last hour. So just going to pull it out from a backup and that's it. So that's basically all about this slide. Now to SEO. SEO, that's almost a profane word. Search engine optimization. Everybody and their grandmother will tell you about, oh yeah, we have SEO, optimized thing, optimize this, optimize that. Yeah, all you got to do is write a lot of text, and that's this. And then you got to use the keywords, and the more of them you use, the better, and blah, 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 blah. But SEO is split into several parts, and they're all very important because search engines, when they rank your website, they do look at all 4 of these things that I've listed here. It's the on-page content, off-page content, web design, and web hosting. It's, for example, you can compare GoDaddy with other hosting services like Hostinger, like SiteGround. Fast Comment is part what I use also. But the thing is web hosting determines your speed. And if you're on a shared server hosting, which I'm going to show in the next part, is if there's 500 websites on your server, it's going to be slower. The reaction time will be slower, but it may be well enough for you for the beginning anyway. But as you grow, you're going to see that shared hosting is probably not the ideal option for you if you're looking to go big, because it's going to take a lot of resources to run your website. Once you start getting more hits, more visits, the server response time is going to be pretty slow. So when somebody tells you about, oh, we're going to offer SEOs, oh, we have SEO optimized websites, you got to ask them a question. What do you mean by SEO? If they only talk about the first 2, run. Because web design and web hosting are just as important as the 2. Not saying the first 2 aren't, but all 4 count. And there is certain aspects, we could go into each one of those for an hour. What is on-page content, what can slow it down, what plugin helps, what plugin doesn't help, what this, that, the other thing. And same thing with web design. There's certain web design features that really matter in the total algorithm. And there's web design things, there's some faults, but they're like, oh yeah, okay, it's a minor one. We're not going to give them that much of a lower score. So it's a big science, SEO, and not everybody explains it right. So here we have the hosting and web design SEO split up. And that's why, as I was talking about, there's 4 types of hostings. It's shared hosting, which means every company runs this differently. So there's companies that say, okay, we're going to allow maximum of 15 websites We're going to allow maximum of 15 websites per server. There's other companies that will tell you, oh yeah, we're gonna let 60 websites. Some actually have even 100 websites on one server running. So considering everybody's getting 1 to 2 hits a day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, but still, even WordPress, when it doesn't get hits, it takes resources from the server. So the more websites are installed on a virtual server, the slower the response time. And again, it goes back to hurting your SEO score. Virtual private server or dedicated hosting. Dedicated hosting is basically where you purchase a resource on a server. Could be virtual, of course, because they have, there's a server that's got 16 core, X amount of RAM, but they'll give you like 1 core just for your website. And then once you get over a certain amount of visits a month, then you're going to need probably a 2nd core, and then you could purchase more resources. The whole thing is, the next step is virtual private server. That means this is where they give you like 25% of a server that they bought, but it's pretty expensive, But the shared hosting is cheap. Dedicated hosting is roughly 10 times more than shared hosting because you're going to get the speed. Virtual private server, that's a whole thing altogether. That's probably when you're running, something more complex like an e-commerce store. And then it's managed hosting, which is basically GoDaddy, what I was talking about already. It's just, GoDaddy does a lot of this stuff. They'll install the WordPress and they'll put in all the features and, so. So as far as WordPress and SEO, the WordPress core system is the best ranked and most valued SEO system there is out there. Simply because it's the biggest. It's on more than 40% of all the websites you see on the internet. More than 40% are WordPress powered. And, as I was talking about, the hosting determines the web speed, the web response time, but not only. Also, what the second and third point is web speed and low number of plugins. The more plugins you're going to put into WordPress, the slower the system will be. Just like your phone, you're going to have 1,000 applications. Yeah, you're going to see that processor speed go down really quick. So low number of plugins is key. Some people just like to use a plugin. This, on the next slide, I'll show you this, how many plugins there are. And you can have 1,000 plugins in your WordPress website, but it's probably not going to run properly even. There's plugins that we've tested and some of them work standalone perfect. You install plugin B and it crashes plugin A and it crashes plugin B. But if you don't have plugin A on your WordPress, plugin B works perfect. Plugin A, plugin B, they both work perfect standalone. Put them into one site, they both crash. So, little thing to keep in mind. Implementation of CDN. It's quite the standard, but what it is a content delivery network, and that means if you have the right, again, plugin like we're using on our sites that we build, we use CDN systems, and CDN basically means that if you have a visitor visiting your site from Europe and your server is running in California, in order to increase the speed of site load page load time, the CDN will upload their pictures from their local server. That means, for example, if somebody's looking at your site from Germany, the pictures and the content of your website, the images and videos and GIFs will be uploaded from, let's say, London server. So that just increases the speed time. So how would they do it exactly? It's pretty complicated. But yeah, they have, let's say, 12 points around the world, and from whichever continent somebody looks at, that's the server that they'll use. Again, a service that's paid, but it's well worth the money because it speeds up page load times incredibly. Page load times is a key. I think on our website, if you look, I think it's like if your page doesn't load within 2 seconds, you'll just probably lose the customer forever. And of course, an important part of web design SEO is updates, 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 updates. Hackers never sleep. And if you don't keep your stuff updated, is basically your updates are fixing errors. So the longer, if a hacker comes up with a new error and you don't update your website, he's going to exploit that error, and right there gets all your data. Some statistics on WordPress plugins. WordPress has more than 60,000 free plugins. They're all basically free, or they have their free versions. And then if you want more complicated features from those plugins, that's where they make their money. They'll charge you some money, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a one-time pay, sometimes it's a monthly, usually annual, something like that. It's not expensive, but again, you pay $5. It's like streaming services. You pay $5 a piece, you buy 20 of them. Yeah, it starts adding up. Anyway, as far as SEO, Yoast SEO is the most popular, has got the most active installations of all of WordPress SEO plugins, and it's got the only one that's got like full 5 stars. So it's pretty interesting. What we use as part of a package from WPM UDev is SmartCrawl, pretty similar. There's also that security aspect to it, which you'll see again in the next slides. And it's pretty big. It's pretty good, and yeah, it's SEO needs security and updates and content. And Yoast is basically for content. It doesn't have anything to do with speed. It doesn't have anything to do with CDN. Yoast is simply just for content, text, videos, pictures, stuff like that. We have the SmartCrawl Pro version that you get. You don't get the free one. It's pretty good. We've done some comparisons. My partner and I had long discussions about it. I prefer Yoast SEO, but as SmartCrawl is slowly catching up, I'm like, you know what? Yoast is still good, and SmartCrawl is much better. And this is one aspect, one interesting thing that we've tested this year. Yoast, you cannot have Yoast SEO and SmartCrawl, for example, running at the same time. It'll mess up everything. None of it works then. They kind of argue with each other, and they submit sitemaps to Google and to other search engines, and it just makes a mess. So that's one example of where two plugins just don't like each other. As far as themes, yeah, you always want, the theme. What is a theme? Theme is what WordPress offers, what your website should look like. So a theme is great. That's the layout of your thing, where you're going to have your contact, where you can have about, where you can have pictures, stuff like that. That's the visual aspect. WordPress offers in itself 9,000 free templates. The templates they call it themes. So the themes are cool, they're nice, they're great looking. But if you get a free one, the drawback again here is you need to update it just like anything else. And if it's not being updated regularly, you could run it, again, security issues, nothing else. And there is more than 31,000 overall themes. Some of them you can pay for. So, there's 22,000 of them that are paid. And again, you pay for it, but you don't know if it's going to be updated, how often, if the company's still around, if they take care of it. It's not yours. It's a theme. That's something that you've created and you have not created, somebody else created, and you don't have any control over that. Now, what we use is Elementor, which on the graph there you see number one used plugin is WooCommerce, which is basically the e-commerce plugin for, it's got like gazillion features. But WooCommerce is the e-shop or e-commerce plugin for WordPress. Elementor is the number second most used plugin, with 16% of websites having it installed. Because what Elementor does is a lot of features, and you create your themes in Elementor, which is really cool because it's a big plugin with a lot of features. And if you create your template by yourself in Elementor, then what happens is, again, you're in control, and Elementor gets updated. So any kind of field, any kind of error that happens, Elementor takes care of it. So all you got to do is update Elementor, and your theme and your searches and everything else gets updated along with it. That's why it just simplifies it. You could look through all these long things of different plugins that are available. But you know, if you have any questions about any specific ones, we have some experience with many of these, so we can tell you more about it in person. And here is an interesting security example. As I was preparing this presentation and getting the screenshots ready, here's from our security software, where you can see that on our website, we don't have 10,000 visits every day. So, you know, it's not like we're not Amazon, but yet still about every hour, somebody tries to log in. Our system basically just tells us who it is, who tried to log in, and even from where. You just got to look up. You see that's highlighted here. I looked it up, and it was somebody from St. Petersburg. So it was from a Russian server. But the question is whether maybe it was a hidden IP address from somebody from China, Japan, whether it was Russia, Vietnam, Korea, who knows. But somebody tried to log in and actually used my name to try to log in. Whereas the last one minute ago is actually me. So somebody tried to log in as me, but of course didn't have the credentials. So our security software said, no, did not log in. And if he tried to do it second or third time and it's failed failed attempt, he'll get blocked. The IP and the user, whatever, they'll even put a cookie in his browser or whatever else, and it's going to get blocked. So yeah, as the text says, you know, they occur all the time. No matter how much traffic you get, these hackers don't care. They're looking for the resources. So if they can hack into your website, you don't have the right patches, boom, they're in. And it goes to, you know, they try to hijack your site, or they try to use your forms to log in. You don't have those protected, they get all the information. Now, even if it's just you and your partners, let's say like you have 5 people in a company, you all administer their website, somebody uses somebody's login to get in, but once they're in, they're in. They can pull down all the data. Simple as that. Anyway, that's it for me today. I ran a few more minutes beyond the 20. Usually it was a 17-minute last couple of weeks. Oh, today's longer. You got more of me. And thank you for your attention. Any questions you may have, feel free to ask, reach out, and send us an email, something in the comments below, and I'll gladly reply. Or we can set up a phone call. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to help. So have a great day, and hopefully see you next week. Again, Thursday, 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.